Today we have three learning goals. One of them is a repeat from yesterday. Two of them are new. So we have I can explain the ways that we study the past. So if you remember yesterday, towards the end of class, we did that read along with the book where it talked about these four vocabulary words and it had a little bit more information in it. So we're continuing with that learning goal. I can explain the ways that we study the past. I can define the terms artifact, fossil, anthropology, and archaeologist. So you remember how we didn't read all of topic one, lesson one, we just read a part of it, and I said there are four vocabulary words we need to focus on in that part? So these are those four vocabulary words. You need to know what they mean by the time you leave today. You need to understand them. And finally, I can develop appreciation for the work that archaeologists do to help us to learn about the past. So those are the three things that we are going to learn today. So by the time you leave, you should be able to do these three things. Okay, and here's how we're going to do that. First off, we have a video that we're going to watch. It's about 5 minutes long. And it talks about a really interesting excavation that happened. And it talks about, like, there was this myth that there were a bunch of games that were just thrown away in the middle of a desert. But nobody could ever prove if it was true or not. And so some people tried to figure out if it was true or not. And so they did this whole thing to find it. That video is going to help us with our explaining the way that we study the past and kind of an appreciation for what archaeologists do. After we watch that video, there's some book work we're going to be doing. And then we're going to be able to practice some of our newfound archaeological skills. So those are the three things that we're kind of working on today. It should be a pretty low-key day, but a day where we get a lot of learning in. Are there any questions about what we are doing today? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Someone asked the question, what's an ET? Right? And so before we kind of get into that, I want us to take a step back and answer the question, why did Mr. Seymour show us this? What was the point of watching this video? Yeah.
Was it to show that archaeology is actually involved in
So maybe to kind of show that archaeology is like an actual real thing that people do and just not something that we make you learn in school to soak up time?
like the area of the triangle?
Okay. Well, the area of triangle is hugely important for life.
Really?
Yes.
Why? What is the point of the
Triangles are amazing.
Oh, well, yeah, that is
Like,
true.
you know how, like, we could not have skyscrapers without triangles.
Pizza.
Pizza, yeah. Well, pizza would be more of a
Pizza's a big
circle,
thing.
right? No, but yeah, like understanding the area of a triangle and how to figure out right angles of triangle, that is hugely important. There's this whole guy named Pythagoras that did a thing with it. You learn about it with Mr. Seymour.
Pythagorean theorem.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Some chips are triangles.
Yes.
Those-
I realize it's fifth hour and lunch is coming up, but I need you to focus. Tell me you're hungry without saying, Mr. Seymour, I'm hungry. All right. So, no, but yeah, that's a big deal, right? And kind of figuring out why we were looking at this is kind of a big deal too. So if we think about our learning goals, yes, in part, it kind of shows that the skills that archaeologists use are not just things that you learn about in school, or just things that we use for people that lived a long, long time ago. Why else maybe did I have us watch this video?
To prove that, like, fossils are a fact.
Okay, maybe to prove that fossils are factual things. So, yeah,
Talked about video games. Maybe you're trying to get us interested in archaeology.
talked about video games. Maybe I was trying to use the fact that it talked about video games to get you interested in archaeology. Yeah.
Before they found out it was actually Gary, since they actually believed that it was Gary,
Right.
and then they found out it was that.
Okay. So it's kind of reinforcing our fact versus belief versus opinion. So this was a legend. It was a myth. People didn't know it was real, but people believed it like it was true. Right? They did the I almost said architectural. They did the archaeological research. They found where this place might be, and they were able to prove definitively that that was true. right? And yes, that does happen with beliefs even in the world, right? For a long time, has anybody ever heard of Pompeii?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you've heard of Pompeii, for a long time, people did not believe that was real. They thought it was a myth. It was a legend. They were like, "There's no way that there could be a whole city that just disappeared from by a volcano." And then archaeologists found the city of Pompeii, and we were able to prove that it actually happened. Quickly, yes. Quickly, yes.
Kind of what Keita said, like you have to prove things and not actually just like say that happened.
You got to prove it, not just say it happened.
Also, didn't also a tsunami hit Pompeii?
Well, when there's seismic activity and water, you usually do have tsunamis. So, yes, that was a big thing, and that's why a lot of people couldn't leave. Yeah. Why don't you go to the office and you can just get into it? Okay. Let them know yours broke. Okay. So, yeah, all those I think are kind of interesting reasons. And here's the deal. Other than maybe like talking about tortilla chips and pizza, all those answers were kind of on point. There really wasn't a correct answer because remember, our learning goal was to kind of explain the way that we study the past and develop appreciation for the work that archaeologists do. So I didn't have a right answer in mind, right? But the important thing is you're starting to think like archaeologists with that. And that brings us back to that original question, what's an ET? Right? If you were an archaeologist, you're going to come across things that you don't know what they are, and you have to try to figure it out using these tools that they have at their disposal. And so sometimes you might come across something where it says ET, and you're like, what's ET? Right? Now, for us, and this is honestly part of the reason why I picked that video, is that I think this is kind of an interesting spin on an archaeological dig. And it's kind of cool that even though it's like before you all were born, like twice as long as before you were born, this really wasn't that long ago, and there are people who were alive during that time. So we get to see how the archaeological process works, but there are still people around to be like, yeah, that's right. No, that's not right. You're way off base with that sort of stuff. So I think that's really cool that we get to kind of see that and experience that. So hopefully that video kind of helped get us thinking about what are some of the things that they did to discover this video game, right? So what are some of the things that they did to discover the video game? Yeah.
They got people and they started just digging for it.
Right. They got people together and they just started digging. Now, do we think they just got a whole bunch of people to say, hey, just pick a spot, start digging?
No, they were organized.
Yeah, they had to have some organization to it. Yeah.
Well, also to add on there, people that wanted to.
People that wanted to dig, they were excited about it, right?
Because you could do, and they had to be like trained to know what happened, so they had to be careful.
Right. You had to be careful. So there's a lot that goes into this. And we're going to be learning a little bit more about some of the stuff that goes into it with what we're doing today. So if you remember, we had yesterday, we did a read aloud of topic 1, lesson 1. Okay, we did it towards the end of class. Today in your groups, you're going to go back through topic 1, section 1, pages 7 through 9. So it's the same pages that we read before. Together, you're going to read in your group. In your notes, as you are reading, what you are going to do is, first off, write and define these 4 terms. What an artifact is, what a fossil is, anthropology, and archaeology, what all those are. Okay? The second thing you're going to do as you're reading, and this is very important, because remember, our goal is to be able to explain the ways that we study the past. Pages 7, 8, and 9 give several examples of how we study the past. They talk about different jobs. They talk about different techniques, different sciences, all the different ways that archaeologists study the past and anthropologists study the past. So in your notes, you need to write down those ways that we study the past. So once again, in your groups, you're doing 2 things as you're reading pages 7, 8, and 9. First, you are defining these four terms. Secondly, you are writing down all of the ways that people study the past. Is there any question on that? Okay, I am going to give us 15 minutes to work on that. So you're going to have to work pretty quickly.
Wait, you mean 10 times?
Huh?
5 minutes. 15.
End up with 1 minute, 5 minutes, that's 6 minutes together.
No, 15. I was like, because sometimes 50 and 15 can sound similar. So I was saying 1, 5, not 1 plus 5.
15 minutes and 15 seconds.
Oh, no. Just so that way people would know. We're like, oh, we've got 50 minutes. I've got all sorts of time. No, 15. That's 51, isn't it?
Right? So,
Yeah, that's 15 for you. No, that's 51 for you all. You read left to right.
there we go.
Okay? I will get back together with us in 15 minutes and kind of explain what we are doing next.
Pages 7 and 8.
7, 8, and 9.
Didn't we read this